All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Brian Costin. I am the Director of Government Reform at the Illinois Policy Institute, and I'm here today with some of the state's top government watchdogs from across the state to urge Illinois lawmakers to support the Local Government Transparency Act. Illinois has a long, storied history with corruption, and it's time that we take proactive steps to change this culture of corruption and to help Illinois become a place where citizens can hold their governments accountable and we have open, accessible government. The Local Government Transparency Act is the most innovative and effective way to do this. This bill would improve government transparency by requiring all local governments with a budget of more than $1 million to operate a website and to post pieces of information online such as meeting times and dates, annual budgets, financial audits, employee compensation reports, debt disclosure, and expenditures. Hundreds of local government agencies in Illinois have already adopted many of the best practices proposed by the Local Government Transparency Act. The Illinois Policy Institute has worked with these governments through our 4-year-old project called the Local Transparency Project. Together, through that project, we work together with local governments on how to improve the way that they present public information to the public. What we've found is that there's a huge variance in one community to the next and what they provide online. We've worked hand in hand with a lot of local government agencies to really improve the way that they're offering public information to their citizens and residents. And we're raising the bar when it comes to local government transparency. Having a statewide standard would really help everyone else that doesn't have high levels of transparency in their local government. At this time, I'd like to turn the microphone over to representatives from 3 other organizations that are with us here today to talk about the Local Government Transparency Act. We have Nick Gowdy from Open Local Illinois, Andrew Nelms from Americans for Prosperity Illinois, and Sheila Weinberg, founder and CEO of the Institute for Truth in Accounting. Nick, would you come up?
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon. I'm Nicholas Gowdy, the co-founder and director of Community and Government Relations for Open Local Illinois. Open Local Illinois is a startup, nonpartisan, not-for-profit educational organization based in Villa Park. We are dedicated to educating the public on transparent practices in local government and researching the business of local government. We are committed to educating residents on the practices of their municipality and developing greater civic engagement through more informed citizens and voters. We believe it is an essential part of our democracy for all local governments in Illinois to be open and accessible to their residents. With this in mind, we believe the Local Government Transparency Act is an important yet simple step towards creating more open government in Illinois. The posting of essential information such as municipal debt combined with a searchable database of revenue and expenditures online will help make local government more accessible and provide residents with information that they would not have otherwise had easy access to in years past. Along with easier access to information, we believe this act will help increase public participation in their municipality, and it will open up a new dialogue between elected officials and residents about how their local government business is being conducted. When residents are empowered with information, new policies and solutions to long-standing problems can be discovered. It is through this new dialogue and participation that meaningful sunlight will shine down on all units of local government across this great state. Thank you. I would now like to turn it over to Andrew Nelms with Americans for Prosperity. Andrew?
Thank you, Nick. As was mentioned, my name is Andrew Nelms, and I work with Americans for Prosperity here in Illinois. And our chapter in Illinois has over 65,000 members across the state, and we're very pleased to be here today with the Illinois Policy Institute to discuss transparency. The Illinois Policy Institute has been a long-time, loud and ardent supporter of increased transparency. Now, it's a happy coincidence that Transparency Week fell during Illinois' primary election. This serves to highlight the acute need for common sense reforms such as those proposed in this act. On Tuesday, 117 tax-related referenda appeared on ballots around the state, and voters rejected 58% of them. Illinois families are sending more than ever before to Springfield and its local governments. Our property taxes are the second highest. Our combined state and local sales tax is the 10th highest. Illinois families simply do not have the financial wherewithal to continue paying for more government. And taxpayers foot the bill for government, and these stewards of our hard-earned tax dollars ought to welcome this opportunity to make it as easy as possible for citizens to see how it's spent. Now, it's our hope that with the Local Government Transparency Act, it will give the people of Illinois badly needed access to the workings and expenditures of their government. At this time, I would like to introduce Sheila Weinberg with Truth in Accounting.
Thank you. The 20% turnout in the primaries proved that citizens do not trust their governments, and they shouldn't. Governments do not provide the citizens with the truthful, timely, and transparent information they need. Therefore, citizens cannot be active participants in their governments. The mission of Truth in Accounting is to provide citizens with truthful, transparent, and correct information, and to encourage their governments to provide this information. Unlike Americans for Prosperity and the Illinois Policy Institute, Truth in Accounting does not support any taxing or revenue policies. We only support the efforts to bring transparency and truthfulness to our governments. This is why we are in support of the Local Government Transparency Act, because without this information, it is impossible for citizens to hold their elected officials accountable. And at this time, we would love to open up for questions from the audience.
Does this bill have a sponsor?
Yeah. There's a number of people who are sponsoring the bill. Jeannie Ives, let me actually reference the number here, has a bill that is very similar to the Local Government Transparency Act. That is HB 5861. Also, Representative Sullivan has a shell bill right now that he plans to amend with the Local Government Transparency Act language. That's HB 4803. In the Senate side, there's a trio of bills introduced by Senator McConaughey, and that is SB 3291, 3292, and 3293 that implement many of the policy proposals that are reflected in the Local Government Transparency Act plan.
I'm trying to bring this home for the typical person, and I'm thinking I could use such a website. Why, if my next door neighbor's a cop, I could find out how much money he makes. Well, it's interesting, but what are some other typical and useful ways that this would work? Why would someone go online? What would they find out?
Yeah. For example, I would like to bring up Dixon, Illinois, and the $53 million corruption scandal that happened just under 2 years ago. What happened there was the state of Illinois was sending money to Dixon. Rita Crundwell was the person who received that money and delivered it into her own personal accounts. If you had a searchable revenue and expenditure database, you can simply go to the Illinois Department of Revenue website and then the revenue website of your local government and find out if it matches up. It's a deterrent because local government officials who might be tempted to do something like Rita Crundwell did, that it would be a deterrent because they know what this information would be out there. It's also a tool where local governments, the media and the public can hold their local governments accountable and make sure that if something's going wrong, they can expose what is going on. So it is very much a corruption fighter. Sheila, did you have something to add?
Yeah, part of the act would require local governments to include their comprehensive annual financial reports on their website. And this is very useful for the public because often we find that governments will say, hey, our budgets are balanced, we have reserves, and deep inside their audited financial reports are their schedules of funding progress, which clearly list their unfunded pension and retiree health care liabilities. So this act would allow citizens to go on the village's websites or the local town's websites and obtain the true numbers about how their village is funding or not funding their pension and retiree health care liability plans.
I didn't see anything in here as far as enforcement. Is there some type of enforcement method that's being used or being used?
Yes, the enforcement method in the bill would basically be that if a local government didn't post the required information, that a citizen can file a mandamus injunction against that local government agency, and the courts can compel those local governments to put that information online. So I think that that's a very good start. If we find that local governments aren't putting this information online, even though it's required by law, we might take the next step to getting the public access counselor involved.
And just making sure I understood what you're saying, this would be on every local government's website. They'd have to post it to their own sites?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, anyone that it has a budget over $1 million. And the one thing with that is that, so going back to Dixon, is that the state of Illinois sends about $20 billion a year to local governments across the state. And that's the reason why we think that the state has a compelling interest to require transparency of these local government entities. Any more questions? Fantastic.
Nelms is NELMS?
Right.
And Nick or Nicholas?
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Sorry, can you say and spell your name?
Brian Costin, Brian, Costin, Costin.
And what was your position?
Director of Government Reform at the Illinois Policy Institute.
Thank you.
Thanks.